Hello, thanks again for joining us on Kalkine Media. I'm Sage and welcome to another edition of the Executive Corner Expert Talks. In this episode, we'll be shining the spotlight on the Scotcoin project, CIC. And what better way to find out about this innovative crypto project but to sit down with the CEO, Temple Melville himself. So introducing to you, Temple Melville, the CEO of the Scotcoin project. Welcome to the show, Temple.
Good morning, Sage. Thank you for having me with you.
Yes, thank you so much for joining us. We're keen to hear your insights. So let's firstly start with telling our viewers what your project's about. And Scotcoin is Scotland's first and only digital currency, being somewhat of a mould breaker. Can you tell us about Scotcoin and what it can potentially do?
Yes, absolutely. We started out around 2013 with various ideas and so on, not ourselves, I must stress. We took over the project in early 2016. And the whole object of the exercise at that point was to facilitate a better life for people in Scotland. And over the years, we've changed that so that now what we're looking to do is to help people everywhere. There's three, if you like, pillars. People need food, they need accommodation, they need clothes in particular. But we've now added a fourth one because it's very important, obviously, that we look after this planet of ours. And so we have gone quite hard into carbon offset, planting trees, things to do with peat bogs and so on and so on and so on. And obviously the oceans as well are extremely important. So that's our focus, and I dare to say, and I'm very happy to be proven wrong, but as far as I know, we're the only cryptocurrency that actually has charity, if you like, embedded in its DNA. Lots of people, you can sell Bitcoin and whatever and then give it to a charity, but we're actually using the coins themselves to facilitate things with charities.
That's fantastic to hear, because I've noticed that cryptocurrencies are doing quite well in regards to the social impact projects. So it sounds great that you have that at the heart of your project. Thank you, Melville, for sharing your insights. And moving on, I understand that we are discussing a crypto with a difference, and as you've elaborated, with a charitable core. So can you tell us a little bit more about the targets and those in need that you are focusing on?
Yes, I regret to say that even just in Scotland, which is a country of about 6 million people, we had more than 200 people who actually died on the streets in the last 18 months. And there are a number of projects in and around various cities where people help people who are living on the streets and so on. But our remit goes a bit further. What we're trying to do is to get them off the streets. And we work with other charities to achieve that. The most important thing, of course, is to get them food and warmth and clothing in the first instance, and thereafter to get them sorted out with somewhere to live. And it's not only people who are living on the streets. There's lots of things like food banks in the UK now. So we work quite hard to make sure that all works in the sense that people actually get the food that they need and so on.
That sounds amazing. I mean, it must be so cold being on the streets in Scotland. Understanding that your temperatures drop below 0 degrees, is that correct?
Oh yes, absolutely. Well, even in the big cities, I mean, over this winter in Glasgow, it got down to -3 or something like that. I mean, up in the Highlands, which is different, it can go to -20 and stuff like that, which is really quite chilly.
Absolutely, to say the least. So we've seen thousands of altcoins emerge in the last year or two. In your opinion, Temple, why do alternative currencies exist?
Well, one of the things that always amazes me, there's now something like 20,000 altcoins, and there's actually only around about 200 fiat currencies. So why we need 20,000 altcoins, I have no idea. Some of them, of course, are not being used as currencies at all. They're being used as a method of financing a particular project, which is slightly different. And that's, fair enough. But I think what has happened is that people have seen that a successful altcoin can be very profitable. And the idea that you can just, and you can create it going very, very easily. The important thing is the community uptake and how people regard what you're doing. There's quite a lot of cryptocurrencies, altcoins that are way down in the sort of under 10 million, even, less than that. They're all valid in their own way and so on. And I'm sure lots of people are interested in them. But we've seen, what can happen just in the last week. I mean, we've had UST and Luna and Terra. Absolutely devastating for people that held them. And I have to say, I think the whole concept of an algorithmic stablecoin is a non-starter, really, to be honest. But anyway, that's just my opinion. So the important thing, I think, is to be clear into what your journey is about and what you're actually trying to achieve. And if you do that, I think you will get the uptake of people being interested in what you're doing and so on.
Absolutely, thank you. So can you also please shed some light on the Scotcoin project's educational and promotional initiatives, please?
Yes, absolutely. The CIC stands for Community Interest Company. And part of that means you have to have as a sort of underlying theme in what you do, something good for the community. It's not a charity per se, but it is of a charitable nature. And we decided quite early on that what was very important was to educate people about blockchain in particular. I'm a CPD qualified blockchain instructor and so on. And that, of course, helps or should help in the longer term with the uptake of cryptocurrencies generally. And, in fact, I was just looking the other day, before all the pandemic started, there was something like 58 million crypto wallets in existence. There's now something like 400 odd million. So, the uptake is going in the right direction, shall we say. So that was why we started along the track of doing education and so on. We found that very good. I lecture to universities and schools and business groups and so on and so on. It's really interesting because normally what I do is I do about 20-25 minutes explaining how the blockchain works, how cryptocurrencies work and so on. And then I throw it over to Q&A, and we can never answer all the questions. There's incredible numbers of questions that come out on these occasions. And actually, I think that's great, because that means people are interested enough to want to know more. So that's our educational side. But we have other initiatives as well. I'll just give you an example of one we've just signed up for or signed up with. Is people called Helpful Hounds in the UK. Now, Helpful Hounds, they're not like guide dogs for the blind. They are actually dogs that are trained to help with things like understanding when someone's going to have an epileptic fit, and other things as well, that sort of hearing dogs and all sorts of different things they're trained to do. But the point is, they're very specific dogs that have to be trained in a specific way. And we actually think that's a fantastic thing. And so what we've done is we have donated to them some crypto. They have been able to, or they are going to be using that crypto to purchase things that they need. And there's one or two other things we're doing with them as well. But that's just a taste of the sort of thing we're doing. One of the things that we did a little while ago is to do with clothing. We found a place that had tracksuits. And they for whatever reason, they had come to the point where they had a whole stack of tracksuits they were actually going to burn. And that's not very good for the environment. It's not a very good economic use of things anyway. So we got in touch with them, and we actually bought those tracksuits from them for Scotcoin. Now the whole point is that those people were going to have a cost of burning. They were going to wreck the environment in the long term doing stuff like that. It was a misuse of economic product in the first place, because in a sense they shouldn't have made it, which would have been the best thing. But anyway, the point is that what they then had was a win-win situation. They were able to receive the ScotCoin, they could use it in their own ecosystem as rewards, they can sell it when the time comes, and so on. And so they're on a win-win. So we were able then to get the tracksuits to people called Emmaus in Glasgow, who are a homeless charity. And there are now lots of people wandering around Glasgow with the tracksuits that we bought. Which is great, and that to me, that's a perfect example of how we operate.
That sounds amazing, because I know the people out in the cold could do with those tracksuits rather than them being burned.
Yeah, I've never understood the necessity to burn clothes, something that you've already made and had a cost of production. The last thing you want to do is just to destroy them, but that, nothing to do with me.
Exactly. That's amazing that you were able to salvage those clothes. And that's the ideology that I think keeps crypto in action. It's just helping those underrepresented people and the groups in society that have been silenced. I think crypto can have a part to play to help those people. Thank you for sharing your insights again, Temple. How do you plan to be at the forefront of the new digital technology, keeping it secure and safe to use, especially when governments are insisting upon digital currencies being more and more regulated these days?
Well, I'm a great fan of regulation, actually. We, way back in 2016, we actually said that regulation was coming. And of course, we got excoriated by people who said, it's completely against the ethos and it's this, it's that, it's the next thing. But the whole point is you can't have, scams and individual people being ripped off for no good reason. Quite rightly, governments around the world have said, no, this is not going to be the way we go. And fairly soon after we said about regulation, we found that practically speaking, every exchange in the world instituted Know Your Customer and anti-money laundering protocols and so on. So I'm a great fan, because I believe it's a necessary thing. But you talk about keeping things secure. Well, I can't talk for everybody, but I can talk for ourselves. We have our token is an ERC20 token on the Ethereum network. We have been verified by Etherscan, and our code and so on has been code audited by people called Hacker, who are one of the leading people in terms of code auditing. And we were regarded as being very secure, so that's great. That doesn't mean we're just ignoring what happens. We have a full-time, very expensive security person who looks after all the security for us. We're forever checking, the fact that there's no attacks here, there, and everywhere, that's a very good thing. And in fact, part of the reason that we went with Ethereum ERC20s was because on the Ethereum network, in general, there are very few issues with security and so on. The securities tend to be within exchanges, within individual wallets, and so on and so on and so on, which is a completely different thing. So we're by no means resting on our laurels. We look after, make sure everything's right. Funnily enough, we had a thing just the other day that we thought something had gone wrong with one of the Telegram channels, and we discovered because there was a whole lot of very strange messages coming through, and we eventually discovered it was just somebody who'd got frightfully drunk and was busy posting odd things on the channel. And you can't do anything about that. That's what happens.
Oh, that's interesting. Well, good to hear that the Ethereum blockchain is fairly secure.
Yes, absolutely.
In comparison.
Yeah, absolutely.
And as we reach the end of the discussion now, Temple, what are your plans for the ScotCoin project for the remainder of 2022, please?
Well, we have just announced that we have chosen our exchange partner, who are Probit Global, who have about 2 million customers and turn over $250 million plus dollars a day in terms of crypto. We've announced that, and we are working with them to reach the point where we have our IEO, which is initial exchange offering, and that will be within the next 2 or 3 months, barring bad conditions in the market. As it happens, this last week of 10 days has been very poor for the market, but it'll come back in time, and we will be there.
Sounds excellent. Best of luck with your goals moving forward too.
Thank you.
And well, we've reached the end of the discussion. And viewers, that was Temple Melville, the CEO at the Scott Coyne Project CIC. If you missed any part of it, you can access the full recording via Kalkine Media's YouTube channel, and that's Kalkine Media at YouTube. So please make sure to subscribe as well. I'm Sage Godray, reminding you to please stay apprised and invest wise with Kalkine Media.